Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 27th of October, 2014, and this is episode 101, Hallzooween. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. October is crazy. Crazy. I did not realize how crazy October was until I had a child in school, and now I'm just like, oh my gosh, so much school things, so many other things. Because previous to this, it's just been Halloween at the end of the year, maybe a couple other trick-or-treating things. But now it's all the trick-or-treating things all the time. So we went to the zoo over the weekend, and it was a lot of fun. If you get a chance to participate in Hallzooween, it will be next year because it's every weekend in October. And there's no more weekends in October at the Cincinnati Zoo. It's really, really fun. There are trick-or-treating stations. There's face painting. They decorated the train this year to look like the Hogwarts Express, kind of. There were cutouts of the actors, and they set up the haunted forest with spiders and dementors and stuff. It was a lot of fun. My kids had a lot of fun. And I'm just really tired from all the kid things. Finish your Froggatt. It ends on Friday, on Halloween. Anything that you finished or frogged between September 1st and October 31st, 2014 counts. The tag is BPHFOF14, and the project that I have been working on is the Nightingale by Vintage Pearls. Okay, so this is my progress. I was here, but that only shows you the progress I made on the front. It doesn't show you that I finished the heel completely on one sock, and I am so close to the end of the heel on the second sock. But I've been working on the second heel for about 3 days. I was doing so well. I got through the gussets. I knocked out the first heel. I was like, I could finish these socks by the end of the month. It is conceivable. And then I started the second sock. And purlback rows in color work, it's just draining. I don't know why I'm finding it so difficult, because it's not technically difficult. Technically, it's just purling and switching colors. It's not that different from knitting and switching colors, but I don't want to do it. Also, a little bit of a knitting fail on these. I finished the heel, I tried on the first sock, and they're too long. The okay part about that is that these toes, do you see how tiny this is? How not wide this is? They're super tight. So I'm going to cut off about this much of the toe and graft it together. That's a little scary. I haven't actually ever done that sort of sock surgery before, but I've seen people do similar things, so I hope that I can do it without completely destroying these socks. I'm a little nervous. But hey, it'll be good. It'll be good to have that experience of cutting and reworking stitches. That'll be fine. I'll be fine. I can do this. It's only a little scary. So I probably won't have these finished by the end of October, but I'm going to try to work on it. I didn't work on them at all yesterday. I'm going to try to get back into the habit of working on them because I don't really have a lot of other things to work on. So I need to work on the Nightingale socks and get them finished, right? They've been waiting way too long. Over a year. Maybe almost 2 years. No, I think like a year and a half. It's been a really long time, and they're gorgeous. Let me show you again this beautiful motif. I'm almost through the chart, so that's almost everything that you'll see. I don't think I'm going to do 2 whole charts because I'm not actually making these socks for me. Once upon a time, I was going to make these socks for me, but I have a lot of socks in my sock drawer, and I feel guilt about not wearing all of my socks. So I'm going to give them to my best friend who will love them and appreciate them and wear them all the time and not have this beautiful pair of socks just sit in the back of a sock drawer waiting for the right time. We have the same size foot, so I know that cutting off the toe and everything will be fine. She may have been able to fit her feet into that really narrow toe, but I think that cutting off the toe will just be a better option. And I am not ripping back to redo heels. No, it will be much less painful to just cut off the toe and graft it. Oh, also we have the same size feet, but she is really, really active. Like, she does foam fighting and stuff 3 or 4 days a week. So her calves are much more shapely than mine, and I don't want to make the calves too tight. So I'm not going to make them too tall. I'll probably finish off this pattern repeat and then do half of the next pattern repeat wherever it's a paid for pattern, but the chart is broken down into several different places where you can stop and then do the cuff pattern and it will look fine. It's a very well written out pattern, by the way. Nightingale by Vintage Pearl. Very well written, definitely worth the money that I didn't pay for because I won this pattern from the Sittin' and Knittin' podcast and it was donated by Hot As Knitter. The yarn for the socks are a yarn well spun in the Wind in the Willows colorway and Knit Picks, oh, it's stuck in here, I'm not going to pull it out. Knit Picks Stroll in black. I'm really enjoying the product, and I don't mind the process. I just wish that my brain could wrap around the purling part of it more. It's very, it's very draining. I was trying to think of a better word, but I can't think of one. So, more exciting, finished object. I have one. So the Pippin Socks by Claire Ellen. So this is where I was last week. I finished the foot. And the pattern on these is absolutely gorgeous. Pippin is a sock from the Fellowship of the Sock ebook. And that's the front pattern detail. Modification, instead of doing another partial repeat of this chart, because it would have been a partial, it would have only been about this, what am I trying to show you? This section right here. I traveled the stitches and turned them all into knitting. So this pattern has traveling stitches, cables, reverse stockinette, all sorts of beautiful things, and it's gorgeous. And it's got a different cable on the sides and front. I really enjoyed the knitting of it. It became really very intuitive after the first section. Not the first pattern repeat, because the pattern repeat is quite long, but the first section of the pattern repeat became very intuitive, very easy to just pick up my knitting, look at what I had done the previous row, and keep going. The only time I had to look is to make sure that I was starting a cable at the appropriate spot. But even then, by the end, I knew how many stitches in I needed to be for that. The yarn for this is Spartacus Dyes Braverman Sock, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% silk in the colorway Cotton Candy. It was a club colorway, but the club has been over for over a year, so you could probably order it if you really liked it. It's really, really gorgeous. It's blues, like an aqua-y type blue with pink, and then they meet up and make a gorgeous purple color. It's really, really pretty. The yarn is super nice to work with. I would recommend the yarn if you haven't tried it. And Marigale, the dyer behind Spartacus Dyes, does a lot of really, really fun colorways. She does kettle dyeing, so every skein is a little bit different, but you can order a large lot if you would like them to be as similar as possible. Works in progress. I am so close to finished on Cecilia's socks. I have 17 rounds to go. I just didn't work on them this week. I didn't work on most of my knitting this week. You'll see. You'll see. Almost finished. I will definitely finish these by the end of the month, possibly tomorrow. I have the day off, so that means I will be able to hang out in VKN and maybe I'll finish them then. It is very unfortunate that VKN time and work interfere because I really miss my friends. And if you haven't been in a VKN, there are tons of VKNs that you can join in, especially podcast VKNs. I know that FO and Die host one, which I haven't been in because it's in the middle of the day and I have small children running around in the middle of the day. It's in the middle of the day for the States. And Sort of a Knitter has one on Thursday evenings, state time. There are others. Aussie Yarning has one. I don't remember when that is, but it's too early for me to make most days now because I no longer wake up at 7 o'clock at the latest. So if you are interested in a VKN, definitely check those out. And if people are really, really interested but don't want to necessarily go to podcasts that they may not know, I would be open to hosting a podcast, but it would be something that would be short notice because I get my schedules on Fridays for the following week. So if you're interested, let me know in the thread and maybe I will set one up sometime. Just know that it'll be short notice. The yarn that I'm using for Cecilia's socks are Drafts Designs sock yarn. Sorry. Pronunciation is horrible. And it doesn't have a colorway. Oh, it has a number. It might be 7109. Very pink, very girly. And I am so close to finished with the 3rd out of 5 pairs of children's socks, so that's really, really exciting. What I did work on a lot was my sock yarn blanket. I knocked out a 1/3 of the squares that I had to go. I did 11 squares this week. I am now up to 757 squares out of 776. I'm really, really close to finished, and I'm kind of freaking out about it because then, like, it will be amazing. It will be an epic finished object, but then it will be finished. And I know I have other sock yarn blankets, and I have other blankets to work on. Oh, by the way, speaking of blankets to work on, I picked up the log cabin blanket and did a few rows on it. Not enough to finish a section, so I'm not going to show it to you. But once upon a time, I was working on a log cabin blanket in the spring, I believe, and then I set it down for summer. But this week, Gabriel... Story time. We'll get back to the sock yarn blanket, I promise. So this week, Gabriel came into my crafting room and he wanted to knit. And specifically, he wanted to knit on Cecilia's socks. Well, that was fine because I hadn't started ribbing on it. Oh no, I was in the 3x1 ribbing section. And he knit across the entire front of one sock. He didn't purl, but that's fine. I just fixed the purls on the next row. But that was very exciting for him. He stayed up a little bit later. I had the night off, so he jumped into VKN with me for a few minutes to show his progress, and he was so proud, and it was great. And then a couple days later, he wanted to knit again. but I was in, it was the knit 7 purl 1 section that I had been in. And then he wanted to knit on the knit 3 purl 1 section, and he was having some trouble with the knitting of it getting started again. So I asked him if he would rather work on the blanket because it's got bigger needles, bigger stitches. So he worked on that for a little bit. And then since it was sitting out, I added, I don't know, 5 garter ridges or something to it. So there was progress made on the log cabin blanket, which I'm making out of Caron Simply Soft in 5 different colors. I'll show you because it's out-ish. So it's kind of what it looks like. It's a little bit bunched up. The color in the center is Gray Heather. The color right here is Bone. That's the color I'm working with. This is Dark Sage. This is Chocolate. And this right here is Pistachio. And I'm working that on a US size 8, 5.0 millimeter. These might be a little bit hard to see because it's a little bit bunched up on the needles, but here's one square, which is the Cotton Candy Braverman sock from Spartacus Dyes. And then these are from the ZK. This green, gray, blue, and orange and brown self-striping. And then this square is purple and black stripe, I believe. It's yarn from Joann's. I can't remember if it's Bamboo and You Sensations or if it's, I'm pretty sure it's the Sensations stripes. I just pulled some stitches off my needle. Oh well, this is ZK yarn also. And this square that I will show you next week when it's finished is out of Nooch fiber in Fade Out, I believe.
Can you draw a rocket?
What has been taking up most of my time this week, though, is reading. I finished Princess of the Midnight Ball by Jessica Day George. It was really, really good. It was based off of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and knitting was very important to the story, so that was fun. I liked it so much that I picked up and read the second book in the series, which is Princess of Glass. It features one of the 12 sisters, and it's very much, it's kind of Cinderella mixed with, what is that story? The story where the woman wears iron shoes and they're so hot that she dances until she dies. It's kind of that sort of same idea in this book, although not quite so gruesome. I did not enjoy it as much as the first one, but that is probably because I read the first one and then immediately read the second one, and I need space in between books of a series. It was still very good. It just, the first 50 or so pages felt a little rushed. The time jumped in not huge gaps, but larger time jumps than had happened in the first book, so it was a little jarring for me. I still really enjoyed it. I'm going to read the third book in the series and see if there are going to be subsequent books. I don't know. Very much enjoyed it. Then I started Scarlet, which is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles, and it does have something to do with Little Red Riding Hood, kind of. That's the new story incorporated in. It's also based on fairy tales, so apparently I'm just having a fairy tale moment. The first book, Cinder, had a Cinderella moment in it. And this is really cool. This is from the library, and it is an autographed copy. So, there's the autograph. I have never had an autographed copy of anything before. So it's pretty exciting. I'm enjoying it so far. It's different from the first book because the first book talked only about Cinder, only her story. That's not 100% true. It also jumped between her and the doctor and the prince, but mostly she was the focal point. And in this one, Scarlet and Cinder are equally important as main characters. I'm quite enjoying it. I'm not very far in it. I've been reading it only at night before bed because I started another book. I started this one before I started Scarlet. It is called Songs of Love and Death, All Original Tales of Star-Crossed Lovers, and it is a short story anthology edited by George R.R. Martin and Gardner Dozois. I don't know. What is that? What would you say that? I have no idea. Horrible with languages. I believe we've established this. I picked it up because Jacqueline Carey wrote a short story, and it is in the fandom, the universe of my favorite of her sets of books. I have not reached the story yet because I'm reading them in order from beginning to end. But there are other big names in here: Neil Gaiman, Diana Gabaldon, Jim Butcher. Those are the ones that I know. There might be more that I know in here. Let's see. Robin Hobb, Tanith Lee, Peter S. Beagle. There are 17 authors total, so there are probably some that other people know that I just don't know yet. None of the stories that I've read so far from authors who I don't know have made me want to go out and read more of their body of work because they just haven't been like, oh, this is so good. But they've all been really good, and I don't feel that any of them have been a waste of my time to read. That's what I really like about short story anthologies. You get to possibly meet a new reading love, and it just pushes a little bit out of the boundary of what I would normally read. The books, or the stories, are fantasy and science fiction and or science fiction. A little bit of horror in here. It's not one genre specific, but they do all deal with star-crossed lovers. And I've really enjoyed some of them. I highly recommend this. Highly recommend. It was put out in 2010, and Steve read it, and he told me I should read it, but it was on the Kindle, so I didn't. I have this book on the Kindle, and I would still rather get it from the library and read it. And he said there were only 2 stories that he didn't like, so we shall see if I agree with him. And I don't have a list for you this week. I feel like this is really short. I'm just really busy. Hopefully next month will be less busy because obviously there's Thanksgiving, but there aren't 80 bajillion things going on that I know of so far. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string, and I will see you next week. Bye!